Unless you've been off the internet for the last few days, you probably have heard of Meek Mill and Usher being mentioned in the Lil Rod vs. P.Diddy documents, which has the whole internet going crazy over this revelation. But to be honest with you, me, my friend Chloe, and the team over in Creative Oasis server, we've been looking into this and seeing that there's a lot more that people are not talking about. And the Meek Mill and Usher stuff is just the tip of the iceberg. Warning off rip for this one, we are going to be covering wild and serious topics on this video, as we will be tackling allegations going from everything about taking advantage of underage girls, sexual misconduct and harassment, attempted murder, grooming, and even cannibalism. Yep, you heard me right, cannibalism. It's about to be a wild video. We're talking about a case that started as a civil suit, but may soon become a RICO case as it has so many criminal implications in it. As this has gone far beyond of unpaid dues and has turned into an Epstein level organization, and that is not a figure of speech. P.Diddy even has his own Ghislaine Maxwell. But understand, as we go further, everything is alleged and everyone has the right to be innocent until proven guilty. I'm covering this because I saw people talking about the Meek Mill and Usher mention in this, and to be honest, that's the least shocking thing in here. So with that out of the way, what's poppin'? It's Shaman. This is my YouTube channel where I talk about some stuff. Let's get into it. Before we cover the full documentation of P. Diddy's trial, I do want to give a little bit of context, as some people might not know who P. Diddy is. I mean, I feel like everyone know who P. Diddy is. My grandma know who P. Diddy is. But some people might not know the extent of who P. Diddy was. Because if you only know him as Brother Love, you would be shocked to know that P. Diddy's been leaving breadcrumbs for years that might finally be exposed in this court case. From the club shooting he was involved with Jennifer Lopez that ended up getting his bad boy artist Shine arrested, to not as serious things when he fought J. Cole and Drake, to the most recent heinous stuff he did that was brought up with his court case with Cassie, his ex, and had to settle out of court for abuse and paying male escorts for what he called a freak-off session where he would watch men with Cassie as he got his sneako on. And that is just a few of many court cases and claims of abuse from his exes and other things that P. Diddy has been in. But P. Diddy's not always in the spotlight. Most people just know him from being rich and pushing Ciroc and going on his love arc, aka Brother Love, which many of us thought that phase was over, but this is a name he still serious likes to go by. So much so that's the name of his new album, Love, which is actually what this whole court case is about. So now that brings us to the present day and the new court case of Lil Rod versus P. Diddy and a whole bunch of others. And if you don't know Lil Rod, like most people don't, he is a producer who worked with the likes of Disney, Big Boy, and even T-Pain. And like I said in the beginning, even though all the documentation's coming out like it's a RICO case, this is all about royalties and sexual harassment. It is a civil suit and doesn't have actual criminal implications, but it may lead to some in the future. This documentation comes from Lil Rod and his legal team, and we'll go by Mr. Jones in some part. And I'm just want to say this real quick. You could tell it's from his legal team because these motherfuckers glazed him up. They were like, he's a young prodigy, gonna play non-instruments. Like, okay, I gotcha, cool. Little unnecessary, but alright. But Lil Rod feels like he has been slighted by P. Diddy in the production of this Love album, having producer credits over 9 songs and living with P. Diddy in LA, New York, and Miami homes, spending months at a time, holidays, birthdays, and missing major family events for this album, which for most people sounds crazy to do, but it's something that is very common in the music industry when you're trying to make it and live your dream. And after all this work, they want to take his rights and publishing away, and he's feeling unjustifiably compensated for what he put in and sacrificed for this. And sadly, people Lil Rod even idolized started coming and belittling him, being Stevie J, as he said he only came in and made the bass line and a single stem, not the whole beat, going on to say that he shouldn't be paid as a producer, he should be paid as a gig or instrumentalist. And that's one little red flag to me, because at the end of the day, being the guitarist or whatever, if you're producing the song, you still get royalties no matter what. It's just like when Tupac used to have all his friends as writing credits and they would still get royalties even if they only helped make one line, one bar, or even one rhyme. And I'll be honest, I don't think you live with someone for 9 months only doing a bass line. Now that you know the context of the case, the documents hold some of the wildest things imaginable. And this document really goes and paints P. Diddy as that industry boss stereotype that you see in freaking horror stories that want to sleep with you for money. You gotta do this if you want to be big kid, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it is just wild. But it seems to be well documented, as Lil Rod said even over several occasions P. Diddy took his phone out or there was cameraman there and he began recording himself doing all types of illegal activities, which I don't understand why people love themselves doing illegal stuff on camera. I swear, self-snitching has to become an epidemic out here. People gotta get checked for this stuff. But hey, you making the FBI's job a lot easier, as they said they have everything from dirty dealings, drugs, underage people, and a lot more. So credibility in a lot of things will have to just speak for themselves, as Lil Rod has seen and documented many activities. As for the attempted murder on September 12th, one of the wildest things that caught me off guard while reading this documentation is when Lil Rod says that he was present for an attempted murder, where on September 12, 2022, Diddy held a writers and producers camp at Claire's recording studio, where P. Diddy and his son Justin Combs were arguing with a 30-year-old man who goes by the name of G, who's one of Justin Combs' friends. And after some time arguing, this heated conversation moved into the restroom of the studio, just adjacent from where everyone was writing and producing at, where Lil Rod was approximately only 2 feet away from the restroom until he heard multiple gunshots in the same restroom. In a total state of shock, the whole group runs over to the restroom, where the doors finally open and Diddy and his son exit and leave to another studio. And in the restroom was G lying on the restroom floor in the fetal position, holding his stomach as he bled out. It stated that Lil Rod rushed over and started applying pressure to Mr. G's wound, hoping that he wouldn't bleed out until the ambulance could come and arrive. And as this incident may have made Rod a little shaky and feared P. Diddy some, what was to come next made him truly fearful, as he alleged that P. Diddy was able to cover this up without a sweat, as he told no one to snitch and not to mention him at all that he was here, and to say that Mr. G was shot outside and that he came inside bleeding. This is the article from that day. It does not mention the studio or P. Diddy at all, and says that this man was shot outside at a party, showing that this might not be P. Diddy's first rodeo when it comes to stuff like this, as just comes off as everyday routine for him. And this is when Rod met the person who really helps Diddy get out of sticky situations like that, being Fahim Muhammad, the head of P. Diddy Security. This is the man P. Diddy quotes to Rod: "If he ever gets out of line, this is the guy that has the power to make people and problems disappear." I ain't gonna lie, that's kind of gangster. Now, in the next passage, Mr. Jones alleges the sexual harassment and assault from P. Diddy, where he states on multiple occasions he was the victim of consistent, unsolicited groping and touching of the anus by P. Diddy, which means don't ever let P. Diddy ask you to smell his finger.
Hey, Terry, smell my finger.
And in a weird scenario, forced to work in P. Diddy's bathroom, as P. Diddy loved to walk around naked and loved an audience while he showered. And this is when Lil Rod starts first feeling like he is getting upset with the situation that he's in, and starts wanting to vent to P. Diddy's right-hand woman, his Ghislaine Maxwell to his Epstein, Christina Karam. But with him venting his discomfort in the sexual harassment in the workplace, all that she says to him is, "Sean will be Sean," totally downplaying his discomfort and disdain for the situation that he's in, as she just says it's horseplay, and that's just how Diddy shows his way of showing that he likes you. And I'll say this, I know some people's love language, what they call it, is touch. Shit, I think mine might be too, but I ain't never touched nobody on the anus or balls. All I'm saying. And you can't say she's just a victim as well, as she tells other people to suck it up, but when a situation like that happens to her, like when P. Diddy walks around naked, she just says, "Okay, I'm leaving," showing that she's hypocritical at best, or she enables the debauchery. Either way, this really highlights how her and many others are willing participants in this relationship with Diddy. And many other people might think, well, if it's bad, why just not leave? Well, it's not that simple, because like in most abusive relationships, it can be for a myriad of different reasons. It either being manipulation, power, financial, and in Rod's case, being just totally scared of Diddy. As you'll see more within the video, even from the things he said earlier about his security and shooting the guy, he told Lil Rod if he got on his bad side, he would literally eat his face. Yeah, the cannibalism thing I said earlier was true. You thought I was bullshitting. Now, this next section is what a lot of people on the internet has seen and heard about and really broke on Twitter and all that, and you might have seen it on DJ Academic's stream. And this came about because P. Diddy said to Lil Rod that he wanted to make him feel a little more comfortable about having a sexual intercourse with him in a homosexual relationship, even stating if he engaged in this act that he could help him win the Producer of the Year award at the Grammys, and also $250,000. And to make him feel more comfortable with proceeding of this act, he told him that others had did it, and he's not the only one, and it's okay because other celebrities do it for their careers as well, as he slept with Meek Mill, Usher, and Stevie J, even saying that P. Diddy showed Lil Rod a sex tape with Stevie J and a white Caucasian male. While this tape has seemed to be debunked for now because it's saying that a gay porn star has taken claim for this video, but Meek Mill and Usher weren't able to seem to dodge that same bullet. Even though on the documentation Meek's and Usher's names are redacted, it only says the rapper and R&B singer, but on the footnotes of the same page, it states at the very bottom, very obviously who they're talking about. Its redacted rapper was a Philadelphia rapper that dated Nicki Minaj. I wonder who that could be. And the R&B singer one did not cover much either, as it said a person from the Super Bowl who had a very successful Vegas residency. Like, come on, y'all wasn't trying to protect nobody with this one. We just gotta be lucky that these are celebrities and not like some witness protection people, because things would have just got really dicey. And Usher hasn't responded to this yet, but Meek Mill has, as it's been blowing up on Twitter, and Meek Mill stated it had to be an AI that wrote the document, and really hasn't read the document at all, and just says, hey, academics, leave me alone, keep my name out your mouth, blah, 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 I ain't never done nothing like that. And put out an album the same night this came out, so I guess he really wants to distract from the situation. Now, that part to me is wild, and people have been having their jokes with it, which, hey, that's what the internet does, but everyone's been ignoring the rest of this document, which I find to be super crazy. And understand it is allegations, but these are really serious allegations. The only reason I think some things haven't been looked into is because P. Diddy is just such a strong, powerful person. We're talking an Epstein to R. Kelly network of people. And because of this network and power he has, most big news things are not gonna go full in depth like they do with anything else. The Breakfast Club is not gonna cover this. He's literally their boss. And other big news outlets wanna watch out because this man has tried to kill Kid Cudi. If he's down to kill Kid Cudi, he's down to kill anybody, including me. So I need some love and support, and if y'all don't hear from me, Diddy did it. Now, in the next passage, it talks about how Lil Rod felt like he was being groomed for something that P. Diddy wanted. As a studio session that took place on Thanksgiving in 2022, when P. Diddy and Lil Rod and Young Miami and her cousin were doing a studio session, P. Diddy wanted to hit that little cocaine in the bathroom. Lil Rod said, I'm good, and he left. And P. Diddy was still trying to get on that Lil Rod, sent Young Miami's cousin in while my man was midstream pissing and giving him head. Well, he said he pushed her off. And this didn't shock me much because I know Young Miami like that little PP talk, so I guess her cousin would too. It's probably in the genetics. And even though his gift of a city girl urinal was not good enough for our boy Rod, P. Diddy was not going to give up the chase. As the so-called grooming kind of continued, where he would make Rod go and pick up escorts for him at local clubs, and then one night drugging Lil Rod and the girls with ecstasy, as he does, and you'll learn more about that in a second. Rod wakes up dizzy and naked in Sean Combs' bed with him and some sex workers, and he has photo evidence to show. Feeling violated, our man starts freaking out more and more by the day. And it got even crazier with the grooming allegations, as Rod was thinking he was being groomed for P. Diddy's pleasure, but his fears just got worse as it became a reality. Combs might be trying to groom him for something else, his friends. Because while on P. Diddy's yacht filled with underage girls and sex workers, he introduces Rod to Cuban Gooding Jr. Yeah, you know the guy from Radio and the OJ trial? Well, he might be facing trial again soon too. And during their interaction, Puff Daddy tells Gooding that he should get to know Lil Rod, which led to Cuban Gooding Jr. and Lil Rod being alone in a makeshift studio on the yacht. Well, not even a couple minutes into the producing session, Gooding goes and proceeds touching, groping, and fondling Rod. Rod, being a Christian man, pushes Gooding off of him and says, miss me with that gay shit. So far you have seen glimpses of how this organization works. So in this last section, I'm going to try to go in detail about how this whole organization works as much as the documentation will let me, because the documentation tries to show the best way possible of how these people are positioned and what's their roles in this organization. Because this part really shows every horror story that you heard in the industry is somewhat true. But before I could go into those, let's get into the people that make this machine go. Starting at the top, right under Diddy, you have his chief of staff, Christina. She is the Ghislaine Maxwell that we talked about earlier. And she's the main cog in the wheel that keeps everything going while P. Diddy's doing his P. Diddy thing. It is claimed that she made sure that all staff members had drugs on them at all times whenever P. Diddy needed it. That being from weed, cocaine, ecstasy, and Tucci, which is ecstasy mixed with the cocaine. Even had Lil Rod holding drugs at some point for P. Diddy. And she was also in charge to make sure that P. Diddy's parties were always fun and exciting. So she would always make sure the staff laced all the champagne and Ciroc bottles with ecstasy and other drugs. Because the big thing, it seems, to have everyone wanting to participate in the freak-offs because P. Diddy had hidden cameras in every single room. As Lil Rod states that he found them in his documentation. And because every girl is either underage or a sex worker, you could see how that could give one man so much power, as it makes it an even bigger reason why many people would not want to speak out against P. Diddy. And hey, you can't have your man lacking out on the street, so she made sure that he was always staying strapped with illegal firearms and dirty dealings inside the bedroom closet. But getting underage girls, sex workers, and all these things are hard for just one person to do. She needs a team around her as well. So she has Stevie J recruiting the sex workers and participating in the freak-offs. She would even have one of P. Diddy's sons have hands on this, as he would make sure to bring in the underage women and even more escort. And Brendan Paul, who in the documentation is pretty much known as Diddy's mule, who gets him drugs and guns. And a lot of these things were either for the freak off or P. Diddy's paranoia. I mean, everyone knows P. Diddy loves to party, just the public just didn't know to how hard and to what extent. Lil Rod claims that P. Diddy would lace and spike tequila and Ciroc bottles, having certain bottles for underage females and sex workers and other bottles for his own bodyguards and artists. His own ex-bodyguards and other people have came out and made the same claims here. And you've heard how many celebrities love to party with P. Diddy, so you can understand why they say so hush hush. But Lil Rod claims that everyone who's brought up in this lawsuit was a part of this, saying that people would distract others while they drugged and laced all the drinks. P. Diddy was hooking up with big executives in his bedroom, and much, much more. From webs of lies and deceit, there's a lot going on here, and I'm so surprised that there hasn't been a RICO case on this sooner. But at the same time, P. Diddy flexes how much power he has and says that if anyone messes with him, they will be dealt with, and that he has law enforcement in his pocket, pretty much mocking them. And it is just crazy to see that this man has really been the horror and nightmares that we've heard and seen in movies, televisions, media, and a whole bunch of people talking about. But that was a lot of the stuff that was covered in the documentation. There's a few other things that you can go and check out and see how wild they really get. But I feel like I've done my part, and I feel like hopefully educated y'all a little more on this situation. The Meek Mill and Usher thing you can have a laugh at, but there's really serious people's lives being ruined out here. And I will say this about Lil Rod, as I think it is commendable that he's doing this, I don't fully support him either, because it seems that he pretty much would have been hush hush about this as long as he got paid good. And that's kind of the problem with all this. With the mentality, if you feed me, I don't see nothing, there's a reason why so many lives get ruined. But maybe it takes a bad person to take a worser person down. And I'll say this now, if y'all don't see an upload soon, Diddy did it.